What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at the distance. Got a post-fight video for you guys. Vitali Klitschko versus Shannon Briggs. Overall, it was pretty much a one-sided matchup. It was for the WBC Heavyweight Championship. Took place a few hours ago. Like I said, one-sided matchup. Vitali Klitschko pretty much dominated the bout, using his jab. Used his jab to set up his big chopping right hand that just continued going over the top. Shannon Briggs was having trouble defending himself from that jab because he was being not necessarily the jab. He was having trouble defending himself from the jab, but he was having trouble as well defending himself from the right hand that was coming over the top. And if you look at the bout, you could kind of tell he knew that shot was coming, but he couldn't defend himself from that shot. He would even get his hand up in time, and Vitali's shot would get there, would just continue to land. And he was landing at will. It seemed to be target practice towards the end of the matchup. It was just all target practice. Vitali was landing at will and just landing his left jab, landing it fairly accurately. Was landing that jab. He also in the matchup used that jab to create space. He would double up the jab through some pretty decent jab combinations. Briggs, moved around quite a bit, but he wasn't able to get inside. He wasn't able to outpower Vitali. He wasn't able to get many power shots off. There were times that he would try to connect with the 1-2, where he'd land, a big single shot, but he was pretty much having trouble getting inside of Vitali Klitschko, and Klitschko pretty much took advantage of it. Just used the jab, used the size to his advantage, and just beat Briggs and gave him a one-sided, slow beating, basically. To be quite honest, I do believe that this fight should have ended after maybe the 9th or 10th round, just after the beating that Briggs had taken. Briggs is a veteran fighter. He was a lineal champion about 10 years ago, and yeah, he's on the main stage again after he lost the championship to Sultan Bragimov in 2007, and he's on the main stage again. And, with being on the main stage, I understand that there's a certain amount of pressure on you as a fighter. But with the way the fight was going, Shannon Briggs was tired. He was injured. He seemed to be injured, out of breath and everything. He was cut, bleeding, and, the fight just should have ended. It should have ended much earlier. And maybe, they did it, out of saying, hey, I made it, I made it out of a fight with Klitschko, and I wasn't knocked out, because the Klitschkos do have very high knockout ratios. And it could have been that. That could have played a factor in all that, but I would second guess who's in my corner if I'm taking a beating the way that he was, and, pretty much just taking a beating and, bleeding and was pretty much hurt, spitting out blood. I would second guess who's in my corner, and if they're really in it, and as well, the referee is another person to blame, because in round 10, Klitschko just came forward and he was trying to take him out and landing shots that just made his head snap, and multiple times in that round, and just continued to jab him and slowly beat on him, and he was even landing some shots to the body. I never really see Klitschko throw body shots, but he was throwing shots to the body trying to take him out. And Klitschko kind of pulled back a little bit in the 11th round. Then in the 12th, he tried to knock him out. He tried taking him out again. And you do have to give this to Briggs, the heart that he possessed. And not only the heart that he possessed, but the fact that, he stayed in there. He stayed in there. He continued fighting. And, pretty much it shows a very valiant effort. A lot of people wrote him off to say he was going to get knocked out earlier. I thought he was going to get knocked out earlier. I thought he was going to get knocked out in 7. But you got to give the man his credit. He was able to stay in the ring and take the beating from Klitschko, and could possibly fight another day. But who knows? I wouldn't want to see Shannon Briggs in the ring again, if it's against a Klitschko. But you'll never know. I think that Shannon Briggs has turned some heads today. He's at least turned some heads. Because a lot of people wrote him off. A lot of people thought the match was going to end early, but I mean, I thought it was going to end in 7 rounds, but he went in, he did what he had to do. Excuse me, he went in, he did what he could do. He stood there, he got hit. Klitschko went in, he did what he had to do, and got the victory. Hopefully we see him in a match against Tomas Adamek in the next year or so. After he fights Vinny Matalone and maybe even David Haye. Hopefully we get to see a match with him and Haye. But I think that Billy, he's a smart man. I think he'll be gone by the time he's 40 years old. That's just my opinion. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. That was The Distance. Peace.